This is another video of me talking on, but at least this one pertains to the stuff that I actually like post on my YouTube channel and stuff, so hopefully it's a little bit more bearable than my Super Animal Royale one. I have been told many times that people are kind of confused on what's like going on with my stories because I have like so many different characters. I have 186 according to my toyhouse as a recording, which includes like sonas, which are just characters I use to represent myself. These are separated into like 11ish stories and like 12 or 13 if you include like my sonas and like just random one-off characters or scrapped stories that I still like the characters for. So yeah, that's a lot. And I get that, and it's confusing. So this video is just me like briefly going over the descriptions and like what happens in the stories, but I'm not going to go in depth because they're always changing. I'm always developing them, and I don't want to spoil much because a lot of these are going to end up being like comics or like games or something. I don't know. Hopefully they turn into something, at least a few of them. So I don't want to give away too much information, but like hopefully this just like lays down the basics and doesn't give away too much, but like still lets you know like, oh, this is kind of what's going on, these edgy animations. So yeah. One more thing I do want to add on though is, one, I'm not a character hoarder, I swear. I just have so many ideas and it's hard to like keep them in my brain. And another thing is that I actually had made many takes of this video before, but all of those were like reading off a script and it sounded very robotic and like just not good. And I know this doesn't sound as good, but it was way worse, trust me. So I'm just kind of vomiting my thoughts out, and so if you hear a lot of cuts and like awkward cuts and stuff, just like I'm word vomiting, so I'm taking out a lot of pauses and so that's about it. Let's start with Loohart. Starting off with Loohart just because it's my most known story, I'm pretty sure, and liked because it has like furries. It has this guy in it. People like this guy, I guess. So yeah, I really hope to make it some kind of like cartoon one day, like a series on like YouTube probably, just, you know, because I've always imagined it to be like that. It's always played out in my brain like that, and I don't know if that's gonna actually happen one day, but I'd like that. So yeah. The main synopsis is that two dimensions go to war with each other. That's as basic as it can get. It's nothing unique, but none of my stories have really unique concepts, so, you know, I just hope what I do with them is fun, at least. So let's just start with the beginning of the story, I guess. I'm not gonna like go through every event, but like this is just like, I guess, a quick rundown. So I'll start at the beginning of time. There's these two gods or whatever. They created the universe or whatever. You know, they spent epochs creating stuff like dimensions. They create like planets, universes, and stuff. And then one of these beings, they just grew tired of having to share stuff with the other one, so he like tries to destroy everything and created all of his own. And the other one was like, hey, don't do that, so he banished him for this like little pocket dimension for like all of eternity. Like he's just there forever. And said banished being is this guy, Ruler. You've probably seen him before if you've like watched my animations. He's like the big bad guy who like ties everything together and like starts the actual story. So yeah, that's Ruler. So Loohart is actually separated into like a bunch of sub-stories. Like how I imagine it playing out, it's like it just goes back and forth on all these stories and eventually they all go together. And the main characters throughout all of these are Hammy, Hector, Oakley, Barry, Fritz, Carver, Rye, Matilda, Cardboard, Dr. Sweetbones, Peter, Polyblink, and Ruler. So yeah, that's a lot. But I swear it's not as bloated as it looks, okay? I swear. So when the story takes place, which is 2016, so that's like eons after Ruler got banished. These three teens, Hammy, Hector, and Oakley, they just live in Loohart, which is just, you know, a little town, nothing remarkable. And let's just say a certain guy manages to make contact through them through their TV when they're just watching shitty sitcoms together. So they're like, whoa, and, you know, he gives them some directions, and then next thing you know, some dimensional tomfoolery happens, using a bowl of primordial ground beef, and they have fun doing this, but, you know, they're hopping around different dimensions, but, they find new friend Barry. They find Barry and Chloe, and those weird mutant animals, and they bring them back to their dimension because their dimension, Barry's dimension, was in like a super bad state. There's like an apocalypse going on, like everyone's dying. It was like zombies, big machines. It was scary, so they're like, come with us. So they did, and little did they know, they brought a hive mind, a little parasite thing, which was destroyed Barry's world, and they brought into their dimension. So they didn't know that, but yeah, not a good idea. So yeah, that's gonna probably do something later. And then there's Fritz. This is where I talk about Fritz. A freak of nature that I don't like, and they moved to Loohart after some stuff happened. And they don't have a good reputation. They don't want to go look for a home, so they just kind of crashed in an abandoned movie theater in Loohart. And then they meet that robot Carver. Pfft, she's probably not important. So, like, shows her their way of, like, crime and stuff. And I hate Fritz. And then there's Rye, who's, like, this... Okay, I'm not explaining all these main characters. I'm sorry. But, like, there's Rye. He doesn't like Fritz. And then we get to, like, Matilda and Grace, who are, like, a mother and daughter. And they, like, kind of travel the world. And, there's Cardboard. And she, like, lives in Adomnia, which is like a really bad dictatorship, and she's like a famous criminal there, and she don't like Satin, who is the ruler. He's a bad guy. And then there's Peter, who's in Loohart. He's like a conspiracy theorist. Then there's Pollyblank, who's a ghost, who actually is the first mortal being to talk to Pollyblank, but he's just a ghost from the 1950s. He's a milkman, and he's dead. Wonder what that's a reference to. So yeah, and then things happen, this big war starts. So there's the hive mind that the teens, Hammy, Oakley, and Hector, brought in from Barry's dimension. So, like, that doesn't help, and it creates these zombie things, and a huge war outbreaks. And these zombie things are called bowlers, because their faces look like bowling balls. It's clever. They're just, like, zombies or whatever. So that happens, and then there's, like, inner conflicts between countries, like Adomia does not like Glugland, which is the country Loohart's in, and Cardboard forms her own little criminal army. It's a whole thing, and yeah, stuff happens. And that's me explaining Loohart without using a script. So does that make sense? Big war, Fritz is there, Fritz is bad, Fritz, like, does stuff. I forgot about Sweet Bones. Sweet Bones is like a little freak that like kind of comes friends with Fritz. They have this weird situationship going. So yeah, that's another main character that you have to remember, but I haven't animated him yet because he's fairly newish, but hopefully he'd like add something to the story. So yes, that is Loohart. One story down, like 10 more to go. Before I get into actually talking about Unbelievers, I just want to leave a quick disclaimer that things are going to be a lot more vague and way more shorter than the Loohart section, because Loohart I felt like was kind of hard to like really explain without going through like the beats and the characters, because there's a lot of characters and stuff. And also I've made the most content on my YouTube channel about it, so I just thought, more people would be interested. But Unbelievers is a very, very personal story to me. I made it when I was 11 or 12, so a little bit before Loohart, and it's went through so many changes, like I can't even tell you how different it used to be, so I won't. But yes, it was very different, and it's grew up with me. It's just very important to me, so it is like the number one thing I want to make into a cartoon or anything. Like, god damn it, I will do it, because I love Unbelievers. I feel like there's not a lot of horror cartoons out there, and I just want to see more of that. The overall synopsis is, a man named Creed returns to his hometown of Rithtov. The story of Unbelievers, it kind of is separated in 2 acts or seasons or parts or whatever, but Act 1 takes place in 1986 and Act 2 is a year later, 1987. The main characters are Creed, Crystal, and Alex. That's it. If you've known me for a bit and you're wondering, hey, aren't there 2 other main characters? I know no one's asking that, but let's pretend. Yes, Ray and Jasper, these 2 kids, they were very centered in the story, but they kind of just didn't do anything, and I had to make the really hard decision of cutting them out because they just didn't do anything. Like, they just kind of bumbled around with Crystal and Alex. They didn't really
provide anything to the story besides bloat. It was a really hard decision cutting them out because they've been around since like the beginning of Unbelievers in like 2018, 2019. So I just had to, I had to look over the sentimental value of them, and I'm just like, you guys are not benefiting the story. So maybe they'll just be like background characters or whatever. But yeah, they don't do anything. But anyway, back to the story.
Hi, it's me like 2 months into the future of recording that. I have completely rewritten the story and I'm currently rewriting it, so this is going to be very vague, like I said in the beginning. I had to cut out a lot of the earlier segment because I kept just complaining about how much I hate Unbelievers, but I've rewritten it now, so I am going to explain it rewritten. It all starts with a town called Richtov. It is a small community isolated on an island near the United States. It is pretty normal, though there is a decently sized population of people there who are really avid believers that just some made-up mythical creature called Coxindia is real and is waiting for his return, but that's not important at all to the story. Our main character, Creed, has lived in Richtov for his whole life. He doesn't really have any family besides parents, and he has a few friends. He's neighbors with the Hunts, which is a family comprised of Aaron and Christy Hunt, as well as their twins Crystal and Alex. Creed was very involved in those kids' lives because their parents weren't really involved too much with them when they were growing up, so Creed kind of took them under his wing, and he's kind of like sort of friends with Aaron, but him and Christy don't really get along, but whatever. Anyway, about 8 years before Unbelievers takes place, Creed decides to leave Richtov for undisclosed reasons. This is pretty frowned upon in the community, and if people find out someone wants to leave, they do their best to make them not leave. Like, it's very, very difficult for someone to leave, so that's why Creed just didn't tell anyone about it. Not even his parents, who I kind of failed to mention, who are like very, very sick and not doing well. And yeah, good job, Creed. Flash forward to 8 years later, the start of the story. Creed is living somewhere in America, I don't know, living a pretty subpar life. But one day in the mail, he receives an invitation to return to Richtov. This is very strange considering he had no contact with anyone there, so they shouldn't know his location. And they were being a little too friendly in the message. Someone he vaguely knew had passed away and they wanted him to attend the funeral. There's lots of thought, lots of things, and he ends up going. When he gets there, things are a lot more weird and different since he was last there. There was a strange increase of things with patterns of crimson with black polka dots on it. Strange. But anyway, back to the twins Crystal and Alex that I mentioned before. They're wearing masks now, which is pretty weird, and they refuse to take them off, and actually a lot of the kids are wearing masks. But yeah, whatever, okay. And this is where I'm getting into very early phases of rewriting, so this is gonna go super quick, and I don't want this section to get too long anyway. There's Coxindia, the big bad guy of the story. If you're familiar with any of my content, you probably are familiar with him. I love him very much. I could go on and on about the stupid bug, but he's an ancient deity that's roamed the earth for God knows how long, but around medieval times or he got banished to a different plane of reality or existence or a dimension, whatever you want to call it, called the Obscure. I'm not really going to get into the Obscure right now because it's also going through kind of like rebuilding, but it's this weird dimension, whatever. You might see where this is going. The twins eventually end up in the Obscure on accident. They see lots of crazy stuff there. It's a very scary place. There's lots of monsters. Everything's very desaturated. The area they end up in and where you only really see in the story is in a big forest. And then there's like this huge arc, which I'm also rewriting a bit to see how it really nicely fits in the story. I go to this really big hotel called Devor Bunt, and running that hotel is a species of human-like people in the Obscure known as the Anish, and they're just like they're like giants. They're like 15 to like 20 feet tall. They're they come in all different shapes and sizes, but basically the owner of the hotel, Mr. Gray, he's had some sort of thing with Coxindia. It's this whole thing. But yeah, they eat humans and whoever ends up in the Obscure. So there's that whole thing, and then they get out of the hotel. And then there's the largest edition of the rewrite, which is Falator. She is Coxindia's sibling who roamed the planet with him centuries ago. She's long gone, and I wonder what happened to her. I guess we'll never know, but she was a big mantis. I added her because she solves a lot of plot holes in the story, and I really like her, and I hope people end up liking her too. She'll definitely be in more animations and stuff because she plays a pretty large role in the story, despite not really appearing, whatever. But anyway, the way Act 1 wraps up is a work in progress, so I won't really say any much of that, but I'll just say that the twins and Creed meet again and in the obscure, and yay, happy ending. Act 2 is like super work in progress because I'm focusing on Act 1 before Act 2. So I won't really say anything, but it's spoilers anyway. It's how the story ends. It takes place a year later. Creed's stuck in Rithov now, and crazy stuff happens. So that is it for Unbelievers. Sorry that was kind of messy. I had to like re-record, but I like the story a lot, and I really hope it doesn't sound basic because I am writing it because it sounded basic and it seemed too much like some stories. It probably still seems like some stories, but whatever. If you have any criticisms or feedback for if the story's boring or not, I would like to hear it. But yeah, that's Unbelievers.
There's not much to explain here because Clay and Jay is very simple. Like, just, it's not anything big or deep. And I also am making it a little animated series thing just to dip my toes into writing my original stuff. It's not going to be anything big. It's not new hit indie pilot by my merch or anything. Just a little thing. I'm currently making a casting call video for Clay since no one wants to voice that green freak, and I don't really blame anyone. So I'm like 90% sure that'll be out by this video comes out. The synopsis of Clay and Jay is just two scientists. They want to like sink their city, but they also just like do a lot of stuff. There's Clay, who specializes in like bioengineering and like chemistry and all that, and then Jay, who does like robotics and mechanics and all that. Hijinks ensue, you know, and that's literally about. I don't know what else to say. That's about it. Swallowed by Sin is another thing that, as of recording, I'm currently making into something. This time it's a comic. It's my first comic, and I'm still currently fleshing it out and, like, writing it, so it's gonna be a hot minute until I start, like, you know, posting it, but I'm very excited because I really like this story. I've only ever made, like, one video or animation so far about it, but if you follow me on Instagram or anywhere, like, you know how much I really like this story. It's just about a priest who finds himself in purgatory, and yeah, he goes through it and stuff happens. He goes to hell at one point, but that's it. And the main character is Michael. I love Michael so much. You don't understand. He's awesome. I like him even though, you know, he has his flaws, but yeah, and you know, he goes to purgatory. He got sucked through a hungry man TV dinner, and you know, that's where he ends up. There's not really much I can say without, you know, spoiling it. I guess you'll see whenever the comic comes out, so it is my saddest story. I'll probably say, or like most serious. It's not really sad, but I mean, it still has like a lot of humor and like weird stuff in it, but I'd say out of all my stories, it's the heaviest. But besides that, there's not really much else I can say, so yeah. Corporate Coast is my story that allows me to be as nerdy about fish as I want, even though the characters are like fish people. They're not like fish, but I originally wanted to make this like a game or something. I even like started making like a little prototype thing, but I'm like, I don't know if I want to make games anymore. I think I just should stick to animation. I don't really want to make games, so maybe I'll make this a comic or something, but I haven't touched it in a bit. I draw the main character Dimitri sometimes, but yeah, I don't know. It's just kind of lingering around right now. The basic plot I had in mind was just that these four workers, in this like normal office building, they get like, oh, super special business trip, and they go down to like the deep headquarters in the ocean, and then scary stuff happens. There's the big boss lady Belial. Yeah, I don't know. I didn't really think it through much, but I hope to like work on it again and like flesh it out more, but I mostly just draw like the main character of the main characters with Dimitri. He's like this lancet fish guy. He's probably got some like other like cowfish or something in him. I don't know why he's square, but I just really like him, and I kind of like built a story around him. But the other characters are Fry, the wolf trap anglerfish, Huey, the vampire squid, and Penny, the piranha. And there's other characters as well, but those are like the main four. So I like fish a lot, and I wanted to make a fish story, and especially a scary fish story. Ooh, that's so awesome, am I right? Oh yes, Asteroid Candy. I love Asteroid Candy. Not to toot my own dick, but I personally think that it's my, by concept at least, best story. I just think it's a really silly concept, and I really like the characters and stuff. Once Swallowed by Sin is done, like it's completely completed, I am going to flesh out Asteroid Candy more and make it a comic because it'll be way more longer, and oh, I'm excited. So anyway, the synopsis is an asteroid lands in some guy's backyard, and the aliens residing on the asteroid end up getting them tangled in a big drug dealing mess. Okay, it doesn't sound as interesting when I say it like that, but it's like Breaking Bad and like mixed with like, I don't know, like The Thing. That's actually the best way I can explain it. So the main characters are Linzel, who is the some guy in question, and then there's Wayne, Egbert, Rotisserie, Fanny, and Mordecai. Those are the aliens on the asteroid. Oh, I love these freaks so much. So Egbert, Wayne, Fanny, and Rotisserie, those are the aliens that like get Linzel into this mess, even though like they mean well. It's just, hey, they didn't know that the asteroid they landed on was a really addicted drug to humans. But wait, what about Mordecai? Well, Mordecai, he's actually not revealed, I imagine, till later on. But he snuck on the asteroid, and he's like a shapeshifter, and he took the genetic makeup of Linzel's neighbor and his dog, and he's like the rival guy. He's the big bad guy of the story, but oh, I'm excited. I love this story so much. I really like Wayne. I don't know, like he's the type, he watches like YouTube on Linzel's laptop, and he has no concept of gender or sexuality, but he watches like alpha male videos or something, so he just really hates women and gay people despite not knowing what either of those are. Rotisserie is just really timid and shy, you know, they just kind of live there, they're kind of scared, you know, just they like Hello Kitty though. Egbert, she is a little bit more expressive and very fast, and Linzel's probably scared of her the most, even though she doesn't really pose a threat to them. And then Fanny's kind of like the more chill one, you know, like the more rational one, even though they're kind of a smart ass sometimes. But yeah, that's it. Oh yeah, Mordecai just sucks, and yeah, he's big bad guy. But look at his shirt, look at his little hat. That's pretty cool, right? And yeah, that's it. I'm excited to make it a comic. I kind of want to do more animations and stuff with it because I just really like these characters. So yeah, that's it. He of Wicked Tome is another story I really like. It's decently new, but originally it was just a place, like a little story, just to dump all characters from previous stories I didn't know what to do, and then I made the main antagonist Bersha, and then I started making a story around that. I made Aaron, and okay, I'm getting ahead of myself. It's a little horror story. I was gonna make it a book, like a little story book with pictures. I don't know what I'm gonna do with it yet, but I really like the story. I really like it. So the main synopsis is that after going to the library, this college student, she walks out of it, and whoa, the library's in like this weird foresty place, and it's really weird. After meeting Bersha very quickly, the main bad guy, he kind of messes up her face a bit, and she's kind of stuck here now. There's a lot of critters. She meets Moloch and the Seer and like Spinal and Rigby and Wishwash and all those. Just a bunch of little critters. I'm still like kind of like working around because I probably rewritten this story like a billion times, but I do want to add more like creepy farm stuff in it because I always wanted a creepy farm-y story because I like that, but I never really knew what to do with that. So I'm kind of working with that, but that's like the general idea. I really, really, really like Bersha. He's just oh my god, I love him. And I like Aaron and Moloch, and I just love a lot of the characters, so I hope I will be able to make more stuff with them, and, you know, maybe actually make a little storybook. I don't know what I want to do with it yet, but yeah, that's it. Discombobulated is probably the first thing I've made that I wanted to make a game like years ago. I made it like around freshman year of high school. I just made one character and then I made another, and I haven't really touched it in a bit, but I'm definitely not making it a game. I mean, maybe I will one day, I don't know, it's just gonna be like a little RPG thing. But again, I don't really want to make games anymore. I just don't want to. The main synopsis is basically that this critter named Grackle, he's like, I'm gonna go out and like, learn more things about the world because the whole world is all black and white and desaturated and all of that because of a big plague that hit, and he was born after the plague. So, he wants to see what that's about, and he meets the other characters like Chris Kona, Kane, and Wallace, and there's the big bad guy is Nelly, and that's about it. It was just kind of like a straightforward thing. It was originally going to be a lot more like #deep, but no. So that's it. I really, really like Grackle. He's cute. I think he's fun. I like the other characters. I know a lot of people like Kane, probably because they're just a freak, but honestly, that I don't know what else to say. It's a story I like. I always imagine making an animation of it with Wicked Campaign by Modest Mouse because I very much like that song. But yeah, that's another story down because I don't know what else to say. Another goddamn story that I wanted to make into a game. You can see this little phase I was going through. Presto's House. I still actually really like this. I don't know if it'll ever be made into anything now, but it's just this little horror game idea I had. It's just about Presto, who's like the main bad guy, and he just puts random people into his little game, which is like in his house, which is like this weird like bigger than the inside sort of thing that's like in its own little dimension, and there's a bunch of different rooms, and each room has a different enemy, and you go through the stuff. It's pretty basic. I just thought it would be a fun little thing to make, but I still really, really, really like the characters. I especially like Leopold and Muhtavuni. They're really fun and silly. Yeah, I don't know. I just, I think I've made an animation or two of them. I still really like the characters. I just don't think I'll do anything with them, but it was originally a horror game concept, and that's, like, the only thing I can imagine it being. I can't imagine it being anything else, because the main character is, like, like, there isn't like, a main character because you play it. You know what I mean? But, that's it. I know level 1 was going to be Johnny the Snowworm, and it was going to be like kind of the thing setting. Oh yeah, and there was Richie, who was like kind of like the self-aware guy, and he knew, because the whole thing about Presto's House is that like the characters that are in the game they have to fight against, they don't really know that this is a thing that's happened over and over because he kind of like wipes their memories, but Richie kind of knows, and there's going to be like some lore about that. I don't know, but there's also Sandy Hangs. I like Sandy Hangs, but yeah, that's Presto's House.
I just want to mention this one very quick. It is a collab story between me and my friend Coyote. Say hi, Coyote.
Hello.
I'm just going to go through it really quickly. It was just a fun little story idea. I actually have a lot of my scrapped or unused characters I just kind of threw in the story. It's basically branched off from us turning Snow Miser and Heat Miser into our own OCs, and we kind of made a little story around it, and there's not really much here. It's just about this kid, and he, like, goes to, like, holiday people or something. We're gonna make it a game, but obviously we're probably not gonna do that, so it's just kind of lingering around, and I just wanted to mention it real quick.
Like, all my stories. Next I just want to mention some characters and stuff that are like kind of in their own universes, which isn't a lot, but so first there is Larry, who's just like a joke, like analog horror character I had, just like an idea, it would be funny, but he's just like chill and stuff, and he likes Mork and Mindy, and he's just an awesome guy, and he's very loving, but he's Larry. Then there is okay, so the next ones are kind of in a limbo between being their own story and, like, one-off characters, because they're just characters that are made for fun. Grijulti and Russell. Grijulti is basically, I'm not going to go into this lore, but my OC version of the 2006 through 2015 Milwaukee Admirals mascot, because I fucking love that skeleton. I think I'm the only one that loves that stupid old retired logo, but I made him to my own OC, and I was like, he needs a friend. And I was like, ooh, that'd be fun, give him like a little nervous system friend, because, he's a skeleton. So that's when Russell was born, and I got very attached to those characters very quickly. And then I kind of made a little world for them, for like everyone's floating body systems. And I made one other character named Brecken, and he's like a stoner digestive system, but like that's as far as it goes. So they're like kind of their own thing, but not. I'm only going to mention this character, Milk, because I put them randomly in Art Fight because I got bored and decided to make an Animal Crossing villager, even though I've never played an Animal Crossing game in my life. And I just put it on Art Fight, and he got like 10 billion, jillion, bajillion attacks. So I'm putting this guy here because apparently people like him. That's honestly about it. Oh, there's Dakota, which is this character I made. I don't know what I was going for with her, but I think she's really cool and I like her. And here's my FNAF OC, which doesn't have a name, but he's like an anteater. Honestly, I thought I had more one-off characters, but I don't. So that's it for all of my stories. Now, before I end, I want to talk about my scrapped stories, because there's a lot. And some of these aren't much of scrapped and more on the back burner because I had no idea what to do with them. That's just one story. I don't know why I'm saying it like there's multiple, so let's actually start with that one, which is Arm's Length. I have quite a few animations of this one, and I ended up scrapping it or putting it, on the back burner because I just didn't know what to do with it. I didn't really like where I was going, so I just kind of pushed it aside. And I actually haven't thought about it until a few days ago. And I'm like, man, it would be cool to bring this back and redesign all the characters and rewrite it because these characters are in desperate need of redesigns. But yeah, I don't want to have all those animations go to waste, and I do still like the characters. I really miss Mawet and Bakbuk and Hudson. That's a story that may or may not come back. I don't know, we'll see. Next, there is Chase Break, which I don't think I've ever posted about my YouTube channel. I mostly just posted art of it on my Instagram, but it was basically a superhero story, and it was kind of gritty and weird. I kind of was inspired by The Boys, and I was really into DC at the time, but I'm never bringing this one back. It was awful, but I know a lot of people really liked Welder, so I might bring them back sometime. I don't know, we'll see. Next there is Dustbin Taxon, which is the story that kind of where most of the Wicked Tome characters ended up being. So it's about it's basically about the world is an endless junkyard basically, and kind of like WALL-E-Net, I think about it. But yeah, the main characters were Spinal and Wishrosh and Rigby, but now that group is somewhere else. But there's a lot of characters that I made and then quickly scrapped, and most of them are most of the remaining ones are in Wicked Tome. Next there's Expiration Date, which honestly was just a Lenore, the cute little dead girl ripoff. I just really, really liked that story and I thought it was fun, so I tried to make my own bootleg version, but yeah, it was basically, I don't even have to explain the plot because it's literally just Lenore, but those characters are in I Was Follies now, in the Halloween part, especially because I still really like those characters. I especially like Jackdaw, which was kind of my ripoff Ragamuffin, and I really like the idea of a vampire turning into a rat instead of a bat because of a mishearing or something, but honestly, I kind of want to bring him for something else. I just really like him. He's fun, but that's what happened to those characters. They were around for a bit. One more scrap story I can think of at the top of my head. It was called Tar Pitch, and it lasted for probably a week or two, but it's where Michael was originally from. He was a side character. I genuinely forgot what he did in there, but I scrapped literally every single character from there besides him. Oh wait, and Henry. He doesn't do anything now. He's just kind of here. He's not in a story, but there's that guy. And that's from the top of my head all the scrap stories I have. If I'm not remembering another one, it's probably not important. That is it with this video. I appreciate the patience for it, and if you got through this far, I applaud you for getting through my voice for that long. I know the mic quality has been varying because I recorded it throughout many different days. It's months apart almost. Besides the last couple segments, I did that all in one go at 1 a.m., including this one. So, I'm sorry about that. I really hope that cleared some things up, and didn't make things more confusing. I also hope this video does not come horribly outdated in like a year or so, but I guess we'll see. Thank you so much for watching. Bye bye.